Hi, I'm Emily Mielstein, and this is a public hearing presentation on Shrimp Amendment 16 that considers adjustments to the annual catch limits and accountability measures for royal red shrimp. So we're here for two reasons. We'd like to consider adjusting the annual catch limit and quota for royal red shrimp to make sure that we're consistent with the Magnuson-Stevens Act. We'd also like to adjust accountability measures to eliminate some of the redundancy that we have. So we'll start with Action 1. In 1981, with the creation of Shrimp Amendment 1, the Council set the royal red quota at 392,000 pounds of tails. So when that level of fishing was met, the season is shut down. Then in 2012, the Council created the Generic Annual Catch Limit and Accountability Measures Amendment. Now that amendment dealt with a number of different species that we regulate. In that amendment, the Council set the royal red annual catch limit equal to the acceptable biological catch, which is 334,000 pounds of tails. So that's below the quota. And then again, in March of this year, the Council's Scientific and Statistical Committee revised the acceptable biological catch level and increased it to 337,000 pounds of tails. Our goal of taking action here is first to address the annual catch limit and quota conflict. So currently the quota of 392,000 pounds of tails is higher than the acceptable biological catch level, and that is not allowed under Magnuson, so it's something that we're going to have to fix. And then secondly, we are considering setting the annual catch limit equal to the current acceptable biological catch. As I mentioned, the Scientific and Statistical Committee increased the acceptable biological catch to 337,000 pounds of tails, and so we can do that as well with the annual catch limit. So here are the alternatives for Action 1. Alternative 1 is the no action alternative. We would retain that 334-pound annual catch limit, and we would also retain the 392,000 pound quota. Alternative 2, we would retain that current. So here are the alternatives for Action 1. Alternative 1 is the no action alternative. We would retain that 334-pound annual catch limit, and we would also retain the 392,000 pound quota. Alternative 2, we would retain that current 334-pound annual catch limit, but would remove that 392,000 pound quota. The Council's current preferred alternative is Alternative 3, and we would remove both the 334-pound annual catch limit and the 392,000 pound quota. And then we would change the current annual catch limit to the recommended acceptable biological catch, which is 337 pounds of tails. Moving on to Action 2. So in Shrimp Amendment 1 that was implemented in 1981, the Council established an in-season monitoring and an in-season closure if the royal red quota is met. Then in 2012, through that Generic Annual Catch Limit and Accountability Measures Amendment, the Council established a post-season accountability measure that National Marine Fisheries will not monitor landings in season unless the annual catch limit is exceeded in the previous year. And then a closure would be possible in the year after the overage. Since we have two different amendments that talk about in-season quota monitoring and quota closures, we aim to remove the redundancy within the current accountability measures. So these are the alternatives we're considering for Action 2. Alternative 1 is the no action alternative, meaning we would retain both the accountability measures that were set in the generic amendment and also those that were set through Shrimp Amendment 1. Alternative 2 is the Council's current preferred alternative. So we would retain the accountability measures that were set in the generic amendment, meaning we would have that in-season closure authority and monitoring only if the previous year's annual catch limit is exceeded. And then we would remove the in-season closure that was set through Amendment 1. Alternative 3 would remove the accountability measures that were set in the generic amendment and retain the in-season closure that was set in Amendment 1. Since we're at public hearing phase, we'd really like to hear what you have to say about this document and the actions and alternatives that I just explained. You can read the full document at our website, you can send us online comments, or you can just email us comments to gulfcouncil@gulfcouncil.org. Thanks so much for taking the time to listen and sending us your thoughts.